Hey guys, this is our overhead shoulder range of motion screen. So what we'll be going through is an exercise called the wall angel, and then we'll be going with what's called the supinated stick lift. We'll start with the wall angel. So what Ollie's going to do first is flatten his back completely to the wall. Okay, all the way from the neck down to the pelvis. So be nice and flat against the wall. Okay. From here he's going to put his arms into a right angle. Elbows at 90 degrees to the shoulder. From here he's going to press all the way overhead. As he presses overhead, he's trying to work on keeping his fingers to the wall. He's trying to work on locking his arms out and bringing his arms close together so they hug the ears. And he's trying to work on maintaining that flat back throughout the whole movement. Just come down again. Let's do 2 more. So we can see Ollie's keeping that back straight, all the way from the head to the pelvis. He's locking them arms out at the top. And he's keeping them fingers on the wall throughout. And lower down. Okay, relax. So what we're looking for here, guys, first of all, is going to be the tension and the position through the abdominals. So what we'll often see is that when someone lifts overhead, they'll end up extending their back and there'll be space between their back and the wall. Okay, in a handstand we want a straight line. So what we want to do is engage them upper abdominals and flatten that back completely to the wall. Okay, so we need to make sure obviously our bum's sat all the way against the wall, and then from there we need to make sure we're engaging the upper abdominals so we flatten that back to the wall. What will sometimes happen is we'll take them away, we'll maybe work on some hollow drills, some dead bugs, movements like this, just to teach that core tension. Then we'll bring them back to the wall, and maybe still they can't perform this exercise without extending their back off the wall. If that's the case, it may be a limited thoracic extension issue. Okay, so maybe that they haven't got enough range of motion in thoracic extension. Typically, you'll see this as a postural thing. So you'll see the hinged shoulders, you'll see that flexed spine, maybe a bit more subtle than this, but you'll kind of see that as a coach or as yourself in the mirror when you see the person or when you see yourself. So if that's the case, what you'll find is that they aren't able to actually, if you put your head to the wall, they really struggle to get into this position. It might be really difficult, and then certainly when they bring their arms up, they just can't keep that position. Okay, so if that is the case, guys, working on your foam rolling, your thoracic spine, working on your puppy pose, working on other postures like this, your sphinx pose, things to work on thoracic extension is going to be very, very beneficial for you. But we'll have more resources for mobility for the thoracic in other videos. So that's number 1, guys. Number 1 is that the back isn't able to stay straight. First of all, engage the abdominals, upper abdominals. Second of all, is it your thoracic spine that's limited extension? Okay. From there, what we can sometimes see is if Ollie comes into this position here, some people may struggle with even getting their elbows to the wall. If that's the case, then it's probably a pec tightness. Okay, so we need to work on addressing that tightness through the pecs with, again, use things like foam rolling, using a cross ball, doing different pec stretches against the wall, on the floor. And then what you also may see is the individual's not actually able to keep their hands to the wall, and they'll bring their hands off like this at the bottom. If that's the case, it's limited external rotation. So we need to work on releasing some tension through the muscles like the teres major, which are in here. So getting a ball again in there and doing some stretches like this one, maybe with a stick, or taking a ring and holding that ring back there, keeping the elbow in line with the shoulder and getting a nice stretch through there. Again, are going to be great for opening up in external rotation, as well as building strength in that position by actually trying to pull our hands to the wall. Okay, and then what we can finally have is as Ollie lifts overhead, what may happen is that the individual is not able to actually get their hands to the wall. Okay, so what you may see is 3 sorts of compensations. First one, that lower back come off the wall. We've already discussed this one. Second one, the elbows might bend slightly. Okay, and in a handstand, if you bend your elbows, it's going to be a lot harder. You're not going to be stacked, you have to use your muscles a lot more. And finally, what we may see is that the arms come really wide. And again, in a handstand, it's going to be a little bit less stable if we've got very wide hands. So what we finally may see, which is kind of what we want to see if the person's tight in the shoulders, because this is them not trying to cheat the movement, is they'll actually bring their arms in front of the wall there. So not able to get their elbows past their ears into that open shoulder position. Okay, so if that's the case, this could be for a couple of reasons, and it can be a little bit more complex, this one, but a way of simplifying it down is doing our second movement screen, which is our next algorithm, if you like. Okay, and what we do here is we take the stick in an undergrip position, and this is to test our soft tissue restriction. So as Ollie lifts up overhead, now Ollie do a normal rep like you can do. So we can see here that for Ollie it's not an issue, but if Ollie was to only be able to come to this position here, and he may start to feel some real tightness through his lats, again through his teres major here, maybe even through his pecs, okay? And this is telling us that he's got a soft tissue limitation. Exercises like butcher's block, again your pec stretch, rolling your lats, rolling your teres major once again, are going to be very beneficial for releasing that soft tissue and allowing you to then actually be able to get into that overhead position where you can get all the way back. Okay, that's if you've got a muscular or soft tissue limitation. Next up, what could be the issue, if you come down and relax, there may actually be a little bit of pinching sensation or some tightness in the shoulders, in the front of the shoulder as we come up overhead there. Okay, and this is a little bit more complicated. So first of all, we suggest here that you find a good medical practitioner who knows the shoulder, who knows handstands, the demands of handstands, and what sort of postures and positions you're trying to get your body into, and seeking advice from them first, whether it's getting a scan, whether it's doing some rehab exercises, something along these lines. This would be our first port of call, this would be our first advice that we give you. Okay, other things that we do know about this from experience, or have learned about this from experience though, is that it could be down to scapular mechanics. Okay, so when we lift overhead, our scapula upwardly rotates, so it comes up along the side and it elevates, so it pushes up, and that is what allows us to get into that overhead position. If our scapula is not doing that, what could be happening is essentially the head of the humerus, shoulder joint here, and the scapula here, a lot of space has been created here, and that's going to cause an unstable shoulder and potentially some pinching sensations around things like the ligaments and the connective tissue in the front of the shoulder. Okay. So if scapular mechanics are the issue, working on scapular coordination with different rehab exercises like your YTWs, and just scapular pull-ups, scapular pushes, things like this, to develop a little bit more coordination and control through the scapula may be beneficial for you. Also, what we may find is that you've actually got tightness in the capsule itself. Okay, so if this is the case, this is definitely something where you need to be getting a medical practitioner on top of, because this may be because of surgery. Often people who have just come out of shoulder surgery, they'll have actually quite tight capsules. So in that case, and if you're getting the pinch, we definitely advise seeing a medical practitioner, because what will be happening there is just the tissue around the capsule, the ligaments, the labrum potentially is just tight around the capsule, and that's causing this stiffness and not allowing the shoulder to move freely into that overhead position. Okay, so if that's the case, and it may be that you need some massage work from a physio, it may be that you need some specific rehab exercises to help you if that's the case. Okay guys, hopefully that gives you a little bit more clarity on the overhead assessment, and hopefully of course you enjoyed the video.